Have you ever wondered what your aging parents might be keeping from you? In this video we'll reveal 3 important secrets that many elderly parents choose not to share. Stick around until the end to uncover how these hidden truths can deepen your understanding and strengthen your connection with your loved ones. Before we dive in, I'd really appreciate it if you could like this video. Your support helps me continue to spread important lessons on aging. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend subscribing and turning on the bell so you never miss an update. If you enjoy this video, please comment 1. If not, comment 0 to let me know how I can improve for you. Now let's get started. In old age, wise individuals often keep certain secrets hidden from their children. While everyone may laugh with you, when it comes to tears, you are often left alone. To ensure their later years aren't filled with sorrow and loneliness, many parents choose not to share certain truths. Even a single indiscretion can turn what should be a peaceful old age into a time of sadness and regret. Revealing just one of these secrets can lead to conflict, loss, and the breakdown of family harmony. So, what are these secrets that can cause such turmoil? Let's reflect on these everyday stories. Number 1. Marital disputes. Anna, married to someone living several kilometers away from her parents, didn't have a very demanding job, but she would visit her parents only once a month. Children often want to gather with their families on weekends, holidays, or whenever possible for a joyful reunion. However, each visit to her parents' home became a headache. Her parents, who had been together for years, were constantly arguing. Her father, authoritative and used to getting his way, would make demands, expecting everyone to follow them without question. Her mother, once gentle and accommodating, had begun to show her limits with age, leading to frequent verbal clashes. On one occasion at the dinner table, her father criticized her mother's cooking for being bland, while her mother reminded him of his doctor's advice to eat less salt. Their arguments often included harsh words that disrupted the family's peace. Despite Anna's efforts to advise them to be more harmonious, they would comply for a short while, only to return to their old ways. A similar dynamic was found in the family of Tone and Vin Hong Hong Ma. Tone's father, once a talented director with many subordinates, faced a new challenge in retirement. He became irritable and critical, particularly towards his wife. His mother, feeling increasingly neglected, grew resentful of his behavior, leading to cold wars and ongoing conflicts. These arguments, witnessed by their children, created a tense atmosphere that disrupted the overall family harmony. Psychologists explain that living together in old age doesn't necessarily guarantee happiness. Dr. D. Doan suggests that while younger couples may have distractions to mitigate conflicts, older couples tend to face more frequent confrontations due to spending more time together and having fewer external activities. To reduce such conflicts, society should provide more opportunities for elderly individuals to engage in community activities and maintain their social connections, as well as encourage physical activity and participation in social clubs. Number 2. Saving money for retirement is often a major concern for many people. Research indicates that 3 out of 5 people manage to save for their later years. However, the situation can be more complicated in countries like Vietnam, where many elderly individuals have little to no savings. Those who do save often struggle with whether to use their funds for themselves or to leave them for their children. For instance, Mrs. Mann, who had diligently saved all her life, found herself torn between spending her savings on personal needs and supporting her children. Her reluctance to spend money on herself led to neglecting her own health. Psychologists note that the desire to save for children often comes from a deep sense of responsibility, as parents feel they must provide for their children, even in their old age. However, when children become independent and parents face their own needs, it can create both financial and emotional strain. Psychologists recommend a balanced financial plan that considers both personal needs and support for children. Number 3. Health issues. As people age, their health inevitably declines. Many try to maintain good habits, but serious health problems can still arise. Some elderly individuals, feeling the need to keep their health issues private, may face difficulties in managing their conditions. For example, Mrs. H, who suffered from joint pain, kept her struggles hidden to avoid worrying her children. However, keeping such issues secret can create additional stress and hinder proper care. Experts suggest that elderly individuals should share their health status with their children to receive necessary support. Open communication about health can help families provide better care and ensure the well-being of loved ones. In summary, keeping secrets about marital conflicts, financial status, or health can significantly impact family harmony and well-being in old age. Sharing and understanding between generations is crucial for maintaining warm family relationships and providing mutual support. Tio has mentioned that he has blocked his parents on all communication channels. I know his wounds are difficult to heal, but I believe his parents care about him deeply. While they may have been neglectful, it's not fair to cut them off completely. Is there anything I can do to mend this? Ladies and gentlemen, just like fingers of different lengths, parents cannot ensure that every child is treated equally, especially in large families. Partiality may not always be a major issue, but if excessive favoritism is shown toward one child, it can lead to conflicts among siblings and affect parent-child relationships. These conflicts can easily result in estrangement and broken family bonds. Some people even cut off relatives because they feel they haven't been treated fairly or given preferential treatment. Some children may even develop a mindset of not wanting to repay or care for their parents. Therefore, wise parents will consider their actions carefully to avoid negatively impacting other family members. In the final part of today's program, let's listen to a story about a stepfather. He was over 50 when he married my mother, seeking companionship in old age. He wasn't outstanding in any way except for his cooking skills and genuine heart. Meeting him, I realized the true meaning of family. After meeting him, I was lost for 3 years, and he came to my house. Compared to my father, he seemed ordinary. His house was small, his pension modest, and he was just a retired worker. Moreover, his son had just married and needed his help. To be honest, my mother agreed to meet him out of courtesy to the matchmaker. In the end, my mother was impressed by his cooking skills. When they first met, he said, "Mrs. Lee, I know your condition is very good and you lack nothing. Honestly, I have nothing to offer you, but let's try to get to know each other. Please stay for a simple meal today." His genuine heart made my mother unwilling to refuse, and she stayed. He didn't let her do anything. He just made a bowl of soup with 4 types of vegetables, especially a pumpkin stew with meat. My mother enjoyed it so much that she didn't want to put down her chopsticks. Before leaving, he told her to come back if she wanted to eat more, saying that even though he wasn't well off, he could still offer pumpkin dishes without any trouble. Later, my mother met a few other people, but despite their better conditions, she chose him. The real reason was somewhat selfish. After serving my father for over half her life, she wanted to be the one cared for this time. He and my mother came together, and the outsiders, including him, my mother, me, and his 3 sons, had a meal together at a luxurious 5-star hotel. I specifically arranged this to show my importance to him, but in reality, it was to display my status. When leaving the hotel, he gently said to me, "From now on, we're family. If you want to invite me for a meal, just go to a roadside eatery. There, I can eat comfortably and won't feel guilty about spending money." His sincere words wounded my vanity. I felt that competing with such a straightforward old man was like trying to deceive a child with candy. It was truly shameless. He took great care of my mother. Every time she saw me, she would talk about needing to lose weight with a happy tone. He cooked well. Once, while having a meal with everyone, I couldn't help but tell my wife to learn a bit from him, what he cooks next time. My wife, who had no interest in learning, seemed quite annoyed, but he quickly stepped in to defuse the situation, saying, "I've achieved nothing in my life except cooking. Don't imitate me. You're all doing great things. Just come here to eat if you want. I'd rather have someone enjoy the food I make." That day, when we left, he packed a lot of leftovers for us to take home. As he handed them to me, he said, "Don't praise my cooking anymore. Honestly, I feel embarrassed when people mention it. Every man can cook, but in other aspects I'm lacking. This shouldn't be considered a virtue." On the way home, I recounted his words to my wife. She said, "People like him are born to serve others. He was willing to bow down to the ground." My mother had good fortune, and now felt like a queen. I glanced at my wife while driving, sensing her disdain for him. I felt nothing but pity for him. In the end, he remained an outsider who felt ashamed. The next day I moved to a new house. He and my mother came to perform the ritual of heating the bottom of the pot, a tradition for moving houses. He carefully followed the ritual, but when it came to the meal, he didn't sit in the honored seat. We searched everywhere but couldn't find him. Calling his phone was futile as it was turned off. It seemed he had planned his departure for when the guests were gone. He returned home with the leftovers packed in containers he had prepared. My mother was upset and felt sorry for him. She told him not to do this anymore, that she could cover the expense. "I can't bear to see you eating leftovers," she said. He shook his head and declined, saying, "I don't see it as an expense. I'm not troubled by it, I'm used to it. If I were to feel sorry, it would be for wasting the money I earned." My mother had nothing more to say and felt some pity for him. As for me, I didn't see him again after that, but whenever I think of him I feel moved and warmed. The true meaning of family doesn't need lengthy explanations. When someone expresses their genuine feelings, their actions speak louder than words. I want to thank him for practically showing me this. I'm just like before, but he could never stand up again. In the past, he only knew how to smile. I never imagined that he would become so weak now, always shedding tears. My mother took care of him and he cried. We wheeled him around in a wheelchair for an outing in the suburbs and he cried many times. In the hospital, he watched his money spent like water and he cried. Finally, one day he took a razor and desperately tried to slit his wrists. It took 5 hours of emergency treatment for him to pull through. He was very tired and also very hopeless. What was truly unexpected was that the first person to leave him was his son. His son rarely visited him, and later on, he didn't even show his face. Every time he called, he would say he was on a business trip and would visit soon. What surprised me even more was that my mother then suggested to me that she wanted to leave him. They had never registered their marriage, so it was just a matter of parting ways and going their separate directions. My mother told me that she was old and could no longer take care of him. She couldn't do anything to help me, but she also couldn't bring a disabled husband into our lives to burden us. This is the harsh reality. I didn't want my mother to be the bad person, so I had to be heartless and play that role myself, deciding to tell him about the separation. I told him as he lay in the hospital, "Uncle Dong, my mother is ill." His tears flowed like rain. I forced myself to say the harsh words, "You know, Uncle Dong, my mother is getting old. You've seen how she has treated you these days." He continued to shed tears and nodded. I went on, "Uncle Dong, we still have to work. My mother isn't in good health. Do you think it would be okay if after you're discharged you go back to your own home? I'll hire a caregiver for you. Of course I'll pay for it and visit you often." Hearing this, he stopped crying, nodded repeatedly and said gratefully, "If that's the case, that would be great, that would be great. No need to hire a caregiver, there's no need." If you're still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. In reflecting on these hidden truths that the elderly often keep from their children, I find myself contemplating the complexities of aging and the ways in which love and wisdom intertwine with the challenges of growing older. The elderly, in their own way, navigate through life's later years with a quiet strength that many of us fail to fully appreciate. Often they hide their pain, struggles, and emotions to avoid burdening their families, yet these sacrifices carry a weight that impacts both them and the loved ones around them. What stands out is the idea that aging doesn't just take a physical toll, but also an emotional one. The elderly may not express their loneliness or their unmet needs, but their actions, small gestures of care and selflessness, speak volumes. It's these subtle acts that reveal their true desires, to be loved, respected, and cared for, not just when they are independent, but especially when they become vulnerable. In my own experience, the true meaning of family has become clearer. It's not about grand gestures or material wealth, but about genuine love, respect, and care for each other through all stages of life. Even when the elderly can no longer offer much in return, their presence and the bond shared become the most precious things. This perspective is one I hope to carry forward in my own life. I realize now how important it is to treat the elderly with the same dignity and respect they deserve when they were younger. There's a great lesson in making sure they know they are not forgotten or abandoned, no matter how old they get or how difficult things become. As you reflect on these hidden truths, I encourage you to think about how the older generation in your life navigates their aging process. Are there ways in which you can offer more support, understanding, and compassion? What new perspectives can you bring into your relationships with the elderly, and how can you show them that they matter, especially when they need it most? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires meaningful conversations and brings awareness to important issues. Your support is greatly appreciated, and together, we can continue to learn and grow as we care for the people who shaped us.